Hello and welcome to Just One More Thing, a podcast about knitting and crafting. I'm your host, Janessa, and hopefully the sound issues are a little bit better this week. The air conditioning is still running because it is still crazy hot outside, but maybe we've got it figured out a little bit. We'll see. So, if you're new to the podcast, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. Thanks for checking it out. I hope you enjoy. And for everyone who is a regular viewer, I'm so glad you're back. I have basically just knitting this week. Lots and lots of knitting. And it's kind of a shorter week because I was a day late posting last week. But I still got a lot done, so I still have a lot to share. And there was something else. Oh, I realized this morning that I never posted last week's show notes. Sorry about that. I will post them today. So, anyway, enough apologizing and rambling. Let's get on to the knitting. I finished the mammoth shawl. And it is so mammoth, it will not fit in the screen. So I'll show you the best bits. You can go to my projects page on Ravelry, and I have like a picture of it mostly all laid out on the bed. Like, I still couldn't fit it on frame. It's a really, really big shawl. I think I was doing the numbers, and it was like almost 4 skeins, and the skeins were 200 grams. So I think it was like 680 or something grams of yarn total. I used pretty much an entire skein on the edging. So yeah, it's just a really big shawl. So it's a triangular shawl, and I need to rewash it. When I soaked it, like some soap settled in it weird or something. You can kind of see little splotches. So I need to rewash it. But it works up like a triangular shawl. Has this nice cable down the spine. And we're still going, and we're still going. And then it has this wonderful cabled edge all around. It's one, let me find the nice edge. Is this the nice one? Nope, it's this one over here. One of my edges turned out nicer than the other because I figured out a trick after about 5 or 6 stitches. Yep, this one's neater. So it has that edging all the way around. And it's basically one of those where you knit the body and then you cast on some more stitches and then you like turn, and as you're working the edging, you're picking up and binding off stitches as you go. So there's a kind of closer look at the cable. Get that weird glare. The trick I figured out is when I was coming to these edgings, it was kind of gathering a little bit, and I was getting, you can kind of see it there, I was getting like some weird holes, like right in there. And I figured out that if instead of purling together on the wrong side and purling together again on the right side, if I just like bound off that on the wrong side, if I like moved the body stitch over the last edge stitch, kind of like you would a bind off, and then flipped it and purled the two together, I got a neater edging, like a more even edging along the body there. So yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's huge, it's warm, it's one of those like big snuggly blankets. I mean, I could just wrap up in it. Um, so I'm really, really happy with it, and I will be knitting another one. Um, I want to try it in a fingering weight. I have some pretty, like sturdy yarn that I think would show a cable pretty well in a fingering weight. Usually I feel like you have to have a heavier yarn to get a good cable, but I don't know, we'll see. I'm going to try it out. I have some other things I'm going to knit first, but this is a pattern that you will probably see again. So with the mammoth shawl and that spinning that I finished last week and showed you, I am officially well over my 10K goal for Stash Dash. I'm going to keep on knitting and see if I can make it. I think the next one up is 15K, and I have till like August 20th, I think is the end of Stash Dash. And I still have my Free Your Fade. That's going to be quite a bit of yardage. I still have the spinning from Once Upon a Corgi that I'm like over halfway done with. That should be pretty easy to finish up. So that's like 10, that would be like 12, 13. My glamour wrap, I don't know. It might be kind of like just under the 15 mark, but we're going to see. If nothing else, I mean, if you don't know what Stash Dash is, the Knit Girls have a podcast, Leslie and Laura, and every summer they do the Stash Dash, which is like a race against yourself. Like you set your own goal. You're basically just working to try and reduce your stash, which I do all the time anyway. And it's just kind of a fun little competition to see how much everyone can knit. Like, it's all for made up points on the internet, as they are fond of saying. So it's more just like a personal challenge to see like how much do I really knit if you start adding up the yardage. So anyway, on to the next project, which I'm being very tender with because last week I got a little too excited about it and I pulled off like half my stitches as I was showing it to you guys. This one hasn't had a ton of progress made on it, but I did work a little bit on my Free Your Fade, holding on to that end so I don't really tear all of those off. So I've just about finished that first repeat in the green, but I really like how it looks with the green and the maroon, and so like I probably made 10 rows progress since you saw it last. Really not a lot, but since I did work on it, I am showing it to you. That one is such, like, it's slow going. I have to really pay attention to it. It's not entirely the pattern in a thicker yarn would be entirely mindless. But with this yarn that's my hand spun, it's so thin because I loved it as a single. I feel like I have to be a little bit tender with it while I'm knitting, so I can't just not pay attention to it. The other one that got just a little bit of work, I'm not well organized this morning. So the other one that got a couple of repeats done on it is the Glamour Wrap. Can you hear my kids fighting? I should have kicked them outside today, but I didn't. I was being nice. It's hot. So the Glamour Wrap is coming along. This one is a very nice mindless knit. You really just have to, like, every once in a while count up your rows. And there's something super gratifying about dropping those stitches. Like when you come to that one where you get to purposefully drop the stitch. I don't know. I really, really enjoy like pulling that stitch out. It's fun. Um, this one I'm knitting up in loops and threads. They're impeccable. It's from Michaels. This is another one for my prayer shawl ministry, so it's in the acrylic. Excuse me. But I really like, it's a very pretty, it's a nice, as far as acrylics go, it's pretty nice yarn. As if those weren't enough things to knit on, I decided last night to cast on the, well, since I'd finished the mammoth. When I finish one, I feel like it's good enough time to start another. So last night, I cast this one on and worked on it for probably, I'm going to say 45 minutes or so before I went to bed. It wasn't very long. But I'm telling you that just to show you how fast, like, mindless of mindless knits, I was able to read while I was knitting this. So it's super, super simple triangular shawl, where basically the patterning, and this is a free pattern. I'm nearly sure that it's a free pattern, so I'm not going to give too much away, but it's pretty easy to figure it out. Basically, when I come to a color change, you do an eyelet row. So the yarn that I'm using is from Premier Yarns in their sweet roll, and I think this one is called, oh, I found it last night in teeny tiny print, a Cheesecake Pop, right there on the barcode. So it's a self-striping yarn, essentially. It's one of those nice little gradient ones. The actual pattern has you change. It has, I think, 4 or 5 different colors, and every so many rows, the pattern has you change colors out. This is basically like my cheater way of not really not having to change colors, but basically like not having to worry about which color comes next, because I'm just doing whatever color comes in the cake. So if I can get this knot unknotted, what I've been doing, and you can kind of see here, like I had quite a bit left in the pink, but not enough to make like the whole row. So I basically just kind of like pulled it out and got to the next color to do that row where I change yarns. And up here, I wasn't quite paying attention, like there's that much, but you really can't tell. You can tell in the back where the color didn't quite change right, but who's gonna notice, right? So it's a really nice, super fast knit. Like I said, completely mindless because it's all garter stitch, and then you just have to pay attention to where your color changes. And the way I was doing that, the knot that I was taking out, I basically like kind of did like an arm span and just put a little knot in the yarn so that as I was knitting, when I came to that knot, I would feel it and I'd be like, oh, it's time to do the color change. So I would remember to do that. So that's all the knitting projects that I have. Yeah. It was a lot of knitting, but it doesn't take up much time. I'm only 16 minutes in. This is going to be like the super shortest episode ever. Brooklyn has been pretty crafty this week that I've been helping her with a couple of little projects. She's continuing to make earrings. She's made a couple more earrings. I posted about those. There was a pair that I wanted to steal for myself. I posted on Instagram. She also likes to crochet, and she told me she wanted to make one of her toys a little sweater. And I was thinking she was wanting like a sweater for one of her stuffed animals, like a bigger toy. So, Brooklyn, are you gonna stand here and watch me talk about you?
Maybe.
Do you want to scooch over here and show them?
So I made Rocky a new sweater.
Here, I'll hold it. This is,
And
she crocheted it. It has a little, there you go. Fancy, huh? So yeah, she told me she wanted to make one of her toys a sweater, and I thought she was going to bring like a big stuffed animal. It was her teeny tiny little action figure, Paw Patrol. And so she knitted a little tiny sweater. And it's so tiny that you can't really do proper like sleeves and stuff. So it was basically like a little rectangle, and then like we hooked it around the belly so that it would stay on. But I love that when you teach your kids to craft like that, like the things that they're going to come up with to be usable are not like, oh, I'm going to knit myself a sweater, or I'm going to knit myself a pair of socks, or I'm going to knit myself a shawl. Like that's the kinds of things that when I learned to knit, I was like, ooh, what can I make for myself? I was quite a bit older when I learned to knit, but when I taught her to crochet, it was like, oh, I can make accessories for all of my toys. And I love it. It cracks me up, but I absolutely love that she's learning to enjoy crafting and working with her hands and making things from scratch, so that her toys can have handmade accessories. So anyway, super short episode this week, guys. Hopefully next week will be longer. Maybe I'll have some more stuff. I feel like after vacation, there's just nothing to talk about until maybe the kids go back to school. That's an adventure that's got to come up at some point, soon-ish. We're gonna have to go back to school shopping. Like, we don't have to get clothes or anything because my mom took them shopping when we were in Colorado and bought them tons of clothes. But you got to go shopping for all the school supplies, and I think those lists are finally out this week or something like that. So, yay! I might just go shopping online and like do it on Amazon or Target or something. Sometimes you can get some pretty good deals on Prime, and I get free shipping from Target, so maybe we'll just have to do that and not even have to go face the stores and the crowds and digging through the bins and the fighting over, no, I want this folder, no, I want that folder. Why does school supply shopping have to be so hard? Anyway, I'll let you guys go, and I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope you get lots of knitting done. I promise I will get the show notes for last week and this week up as I post this. So we'll talk to you again very soon.